Week 6 Sunday, 2 unbeatens no longer. And who are they losing to? A very interesting week in Week 6. Tons of fun games to get into. Some teams handling their business and some teams like the Bills barely escaping. All coming up right now. Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Appreciate all of the everydayers out there. Subscribe up on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, the old thumbs up. We appreciate that. And, of course, you can find us everywhere you get your audio podcasts as well. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, an interesting week here, Matt, because it's the first time since, let me get this right here. It is the first time since, I think we got to go all the way back to, now I lost my stat here, from, this is about no 6-0 teams in the NFL. Here we go. Okay, so with the 49ers and Eagles losing Sunday, it's the first time that no team has reached 6-0 since 2017. And according to Elias Sports, it was the first time since the merger in 1970 that two teams 5-0 or better each lost to an opponent with a 500 or worse record in the same week.
Wow. So this is like the earliest the undefeated Dolphins, Zonka, and those guys could pop champagne in quite a while. Yeah, there you go.
They might be doing like grape juice at this point, sparkling grape juice. So no unbeatens anymore in the NFL. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles, who lost to the New York Jets. Surprisingly, a couple surprising outcomes here in this week 6, and the New York Jets 20-14 beat the Philadelphia Eagles. The Jets now climbing back to 3-3, 500 records in the AFC East, with the Philadelphia Eagles now at 5-1.
Yeah, a lot of takeaways. First of all, I just want to throw this out there just so we get it out there. I mean, if you include the Bills' near loss to the Giants, that's 3 backup quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, what's his face, and the Browns blocker. I forgot his name off the top of my head. And Tyrod Taylor that almost knocked off 3 Giants. 2 of them did. And so congrats. I do think Wilson's playing a little better for New York. I mean, I don't think he's the utter disaster he's been up until this point in his career. And the offense seems pretty clear to me with New York is let's get Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson the ball and hope they break big plays. And we're going to play really good defense, which they did in this game. Stop the Eagles running game, which I want to get to in a minute, and hang around and see how it goes in the last minute. And the Jets scored 11 unanswered in the second half, and that it was their day. I have a little bit of concerns about Hurts right now, and maybe even overall when he gets in a game like this where the Eagles only run the ball 22 times for 80 yards. You know, like, okay, Jalen, you're going to throw it 45 times. We need you to win this game for us. I don't know that he's ever going to be that guy or is that guy, and 3 interceptions didn't help.
I think there's a lot of similarities here with this 49ers and Eagles loss against the teams they lost to. And you mentioned the backup quarterback nature of these teams. The Jets now climbing to 500. The Browns climb over 500 at 3-2 now. I think both the 49ers and Eagles, as are a lot of good teams, especially teams that like running the football, are better front runners than they are throwing from behind. And we saw that with Jalen Hurts. He threw the ball 45 times. Have we ever seen that from Jalen Hurts? I can't think of a time he threw 40 passes in a game. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So that making a team one-dimensional is so huge in the NFL. And one of the other takeaways here is, and we've seen this now numerous weeks, the New York Jets defense is for real, and it's going to keep them in football games. The Cleveland Browns defense is for real, and maybe the best in the NFL, and it's going to keep them in a lot of games, even though those teams are playing their backup quarterbacks.
Yeah. Winning the turnover advantage 4-0 obviously is the key to this Jets-Eagles games.
Yes.
But that's not an accident either. I mean, they made things difficult on the Eagles, forced turnovers and whatnot. Should we just pivot right now to Niners-Browns? Because there is similarities there.
Absolutely. And this is why teams with really good defense, they say defense wins championships. We're starting to see the weather turn a little bit. The leaves are turning yellow, falling on the ground, and a little bit of weather in Cleveland as well. So we're going to see some bad weather games. We're going to see some ugly games, and it's not going to be, Miami Dolphins 70 points in the sunshine every week for a lot of teams in a lot of games.
So they've shown this throughout the year that I think the Browns defense is pretty clearly the best in the league right now. I mean, some of their showings, any metric you look at, eyeball test, difficulty to play against, star power, coaching, and they beat the Niners, who I firmly believe coming into this, and probably still do, are the best team in the league without Watson, Chubb, or Bitonio, basically all based on their defense. And I don't know that they win this game even 50% of the time if you ran it back. And I think weather worked to the Browns' advantage and, cross-country road trip and all those things. And I thought Purdy sputtered a little and wasn't tremendous. And you lose McCaffrey and you lose Debo. And Trent Williams, as the game went on, struggled more and more with Myles Garrett due to injury. I mean, that's a heavyweight fight of all time.
Can we pause on that? Because
that's unbelievable.
It's so fun to watch Myles Garrett, and they left him over against Trent Williams a lot. A lot of teams, what they do is try to get their best pass rushers away from Trent Williams' side to try to create pressure. They were still able to create some pressure on the other side, and then utilize Myles Garrett a lot on Trent Williams. And Trent Williams did hurt his ankles, so that affected him, and he did come back in the game after the injury. But I think he was in a walking cast after the game, soft cast to protect that ankle. MRIs and stuff. We'll get into a lot of injuries on tomorrow's show, and we have some more MRIs and some more information on some of these players. But Myles Garrett in a league filled with freaks is the freakiest of the freaks. Just watching how big he is, I've never seen someone ragdoll Trent Williams, no matter if he has a bad ankle or not, the way that number 95 did in that game. And then there was another play early, and the 49ers went down to score immediately, which is like, okay, this is going to be another great defense like the Dallas Cowboys last week. The 49ers put 42 on them. That's what it looked like in the first drive. And it definitely was not the case. That was the end of the 49ers, rolling down the field smoothly on the Browns. But there was a play where Christian McCaffrey was taking it to the sideline, and to watch Myles Garrett, 95, as big as he is, run Christian McCaffrey down to the sideline. It's
unreal.
The dude is such a freak of nature amongst freaks that he stands out that much.
Yes. I mean, I talk about this all the time. I think there's 4, and maybe Max Crosby makes it 5 elite edge players. And I don't know if Garrett's number 1, but he's the freakiest for sure. He's the first pick in the draft, freaky all day long, much more so than anyone really in the league defensively right now. So all credit to the Browns. I mean, they're going to be really hard to play against, and you would assume Watson's back soon. I also think you have to mention, I'm sure you're well aware of this, the penalties in this game were a little over the top. I mean,
there was a lot on both sides.
Yes.
Some really important questions. But Eric Crocker and I, the hosts of Locked On 49ers, we talked about this because that's immediately what fans go to. The refs hosed us. The kicker sucks. All these things. And, even after all this, the Brock Purdy coming off the best game of his career, had the worst game of his career. He got the 49ers in position to win the game with a field goal. Jake Moody missed the game-winning field goal. So we'd be talking about, ugly win. Niners got out of it. Way to battle through it. Instead, they lost because, one kick here or there can make a huge difference there. But the way we put it is, you can't put the game in the hands of the refs, and you can't put the games in the hands of a kicker. So you've just got to play better to make sure if those things happen, it doesn't swing a W to an L. And I think that's where it was for the 49ers in this one. So,
I'll be honest, if I was the Locked On Niners host, I would be like, tough game, blah, blah, blah. But I think the spin on it, not just to make Niners fans happy, would be we were a very makeable field goal away without McCaffrey, Debo, Purdy, and Trent at their best in hostile situations. I mean, it makes me think the opponents that the Niners face from here on out almost have to play a perfect game to win 19-17. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And nobody has, they're not going to face a team very likely that has the defense that's built like the Browns either, because they were great up front. Owusu Koromoa was flying around all levels of the field. He might have had his best game as a pro, best game I've seen him play. He was all over the place. They can really cover on the outside with Ward and Newsome. It's a really good defense. They play really sound. They play really tough. Play very similar brand to the 49ers do. They both play that wide 9 front that actually the Niners, Chris Kocurek, defensive line coach, came from Detroit under Jim Schwartz. And that's why they run that front, because it's so good against the wide zone type of a scheme too that a lot of teams are running. They do a little bit different in the coverage side of things, the two defenses. But Jim Schwartz now improves, by the way, to 9-1 against Kyle Shanahan offenses now.
Yeah, I saw that. That's not a fluke. Coaches coach against coaches. You know, I mean, and I'm sure opponents will try to take some of the stuff that the Browns put on tape, but good luck, you know.
Well, and the other thing is, I think clearly because you're playing a good defense, ball needs to come out quick. The game plan was probably, and just judging by the early part of the game before Debo left and before Christian McCaffrey left, it was a Debo Christian McCaffrey game plan. And
after
went out early. So I think Kyle Shanahan was like, "Oh no, let's flip the card over, because that whole side of the card is these two guys."
Shot, yeah, it wasn't a Kittle game, that's for sure. But no, I would not be concerned. It's like, we talked about the undefeated stuff and the Dolphins, and you know, I don't think any of us thought the Niners were going to be 17-0. I mean, this is a good. Okay, we can lose if all these things go against us. We're neck and neck with a good team. You know. Yeah,
good job, good Browns defense. PJ Walker, not a great stat line, but I thought he was pretty impressive, and I didn't expect him to play as well as he did. And on the go back to the Eagles really quick here. AJ Brown looks really even like in the pink cleats. I don't know if that's just me. They just pop off the screen. You're like, oh my God, you see this guy everywhere. He just looks faster. Looks different. The Eagles still haven't really. The Eagles aren't peaking as a team. They're 5. Like for them, the good news is you're 5-1. You've still got a lot of things to get better at, and I think you're gonna get a bit better. We saw the 49ers already playing just clean, amazing football, and now they're like, okay, this is how, you know, little slap in the face. Now we can rebound and regroup and learn from it and move on. So both those teams in really good spots, even though they earned their first losses this season. Defense, though, is key. You got to play some defense in the NFL.
One thing I did want to mention when we talked Eagles, I forgot, was their back seven. You know, they kind of ignore safeties and linebackers in their team building. And I think their corners have taken a step back, that their back seven's maybe a weakness now.
Could be had. I think their overall team took a step back, both play callers and some things to figure out for sure.
Yes, I agree.
You know, they might be in the trade market actually for a defensive back. Those are the rumors out there. Of course, we'll talk more trades. One team narrowly escaped a loss. That was the Buffalo Bills against another backup quarterback. We'll get to that next, and some other teams that really handled their business, put themselves in a great spot as we sit here in October looking at potential playoff teams next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Gametime and the Gametime app. It should not be difficult to buy tickets. You shouldn't have a hassle when you're trying to do something as fun as going and see a football game, an NFL game, a college game, a concert, a comedy show, going to the theater, whatever it is, date night, whatever it is. It shouldn't be a hassle to go buy your tickets. So you don't have to worry when it comes to Gametime. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat before you buy, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of your sporting events, music, comedy, and theater near you. You get to see your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without any hidden fees that pop up, which drives me crazy when I'm trying to buy tickets. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps, and you don't have to fish through emails to find where those tickets are. They're just right there for you on the app when you get to your event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Have the most fun you've had all season playing daily fantasy with PrizePicks. And while you're playing the daily fantasy football every week, guess what? You can win up to 25 times your money as well. All you do, and it is super simple with PrizePicks, you pick 2 or more players and you utilize those PrizePicks stat projections. Then you pick more or less than those projected stats and place that entry. You can place an entry in less than 60 seconds and you can turn $10 into $250 with just a couple of taps. And something new and something that's really interesting that nobody else is really doing right now, PrizePicks reboot policy. That means your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for NFL games and college football top 25 matchups, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half, does not return in the second half, that player is rebooted. So PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with that injury insurance. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL or download the app and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100 at PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So the Buffalo Bills were favored by what, 15 and a half points on Sunday Night Football against the New York Giants. And Matt, it's hard to win by 15 points if you don't even score 15 points. I mean, this was an ugly score. The Bills were completely blanked for 3 quarters. The Giants couldn't find the end zone, even from the 1-yard line. Were able to kick a few field goals in this one. And the Bills did get out of there with a victory, improving to 4-2 with a 14-9 victory.
It's funny because I think I took the Bills on Friday, when we talked. And then I watched all the games and I looked at the line. It was 15.5. And I'm like, man, more and more I'm thinking when coaches and quarterbacks and play callers and head guys are super familiar with their opponent, games are going to be close. Belichick, McDaniels. We just talked about the Schwartz Shanahan thing. And Tyrod, I didn't even realize this. And I did at the time, but he was a 3-year starter for the Bills right before Josh Allen. And Dayball comes from there. And it's not great, but Saquon and Wan'Dale Robinson were professional guys that could get yards. So there was nowhere to go but up for this putrid Giants offense, in a primetime game. Bills are coming back from overseas. So I put for my taste, I put a pretty good chunk on. Give me 15.5. The Bills were the better team. They turned it on when they had to, and obviously turnover ratio had a lot to do with this one as well. But I think there's a lesson to be learned there.
I think a huge lesson, and it's a similar lesson in the first 2 games we talked about with the 49ers and the Eagles losing to good defenses. And I wouldn't necessarily put the Giants in the good defense category, but they played good defense on this night. And it's a long season, and week to week, it's just you never know what exact path the game is going to go down, the game script. How players are going to wake up and play in a given day. That this league is wild, and it truly is any given Sunday. And I think this is one of the weeks that they witness that as much as any.
Absolutely. So I just need to, as an analyst, pull back the curtain. I need to be more open to matchups with great familiarity. That I think there'll be closer games, take the point types of games. Don't sell the opponent short.
Yeah, and in this game, you don't recognize it right off the bat, and then you realize, oh yeah, there's so much familiarity here. And that's why even good teams against bad teams, you see a lot of division opponents when they see each other twice a year, they split a lot of those games, even though one team seems much better.
The other thing I had going, not that anyone cares, but I was up by like 25 points in my fantasy game. My opponent only had Stephon Diggs, and I'm like, Diggs might catch 20 passes in this game. Like, they had no answer for him at all. I'm like, this goes 1 minute longer, I'm going to lose.
So what is that? 20 points fantasy-wise in PPR leagues.
Yeah.
How about the Detroit Lions handling their business against the Creamsicle Bucks? 20-6 the final there.
Yeah, and we kind of teased this, but I thought there was 4 or 5 teams that I would call tier 2. The Ravens, the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Lions are the epitome of this. Like, they beat lesser teams in a very workmanlike business trip manner. And I think that's a really good sign, especially the Lions are the epitome of this. They're pretty darn good. Both sides of the ball, they were the better team. St. Brown, good defense, controlled it from the start, didn't blow your doors off, but all those games I just mentioned were very workmanlike by the better team. And I think that's easier said than done.
I mean, fantasy owners are really excited to have Amon-Ra St. Brown doing, 12 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown. Jared Goff going for 350. Jared Goff's putting up numbers
on the road
in that line. Yeah, on the road. Absolutely. Yep. It's a team that has some players on the other side of the ball to defend that pass. And I would throw, I don't want to talk much about the Rams-Cardinals game, 26-9 win for the Rams at home over the Cardinals. But Cooper Kupp, 7 catches, 148 yards, a touchdown, just, taking that fantasy angle a little bit, having those guys and you see them, and they get open and their quarterbacks are good enough to get it to them. And that's their number one guy. And they hit him all the time. It's like, that's just fantasy gold right there. Knowing that you going into a week and you're like, okay, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown and I can just put him in the lineup and I know exactly what I'm going to get. And I've got Cooper Kupp back now and he's just going to get peppered with targets. And it's like a little warm blanket for your fantasy football team. Stephon Diggs is one of those probably as well.
Let's talk Rams real quick. I know it's not a highlight game, but I paid extra attention to it because Steelers play them next week. They came out throwing like crazy. They had no answer for Kupp whatsoever against a pretty bad Cardinals team that's fallen back to earth. And then they come out in the second half and run the ball 8 straight times and just end the game, again, very workmanlike fashion. I probably should have put them in with the maybe tier 2, tier 3 teams.
I don't know if they belong in that tier, but against
I don't either.
Against the Cardinals, they're like, oh, we're a better team than you. Let's not forget that. And let's
handle business.
Yeah. Let's handle it. So they did handle their business, but kind of a different way that I'd put them in the next tier of teams after Lions, Dolphins, Ravens, Jags. I want to talk more about Dolphins, Ravens, Jags games and the London game in particular next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you in part by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And why not go to the place that already has the most job seekers of anywhere in the world, right? I'm on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. There might be people out there that don't even realize that they want your job, the job that you're offering, and they are the perfect fit for your job. You can find them as well at LinkedIn because all you do is you use the purple hashtag hiring frame and you add your job posting to that LinkedIn profile and it spreads the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's go to London, Matt. And the Baltimore Ravens traveled early. The Titans traveled late. And the Titans made the score closer than this game felt. This felt like a game where the Tennessee Titans were as flat as possible. And the Ravens were in like that workmanlike mode that you mentioned. That wasn't necessarily pretty for them. But it's like, yep, let's get out of here. We are prepared. Doesn't seem like the other guys are ready to play. Let's get out of here with a W and fly back home.
Yeah, I mean, if Derrick Henry doesn't break a 63-yarder, this really isn't even all that interesting. And I still think the Ravens, I don't want to compare them directly to the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the more talented team, but are still figuring things out and getting wins while they're doing it. The Ravens seem to be doing it on the back of their quarterback as opposed to the back of their D-line and A.J. Brown, et cetera. But Lamar's playing really, really well. Then they keep stalling out in the red zone. I mean, this was all Justin Tucker field goals. And the Titans lost Tannehill. He's another injury we'll talk about tomorrow. Willis came in and was pretty lost. It makes you wonder, is it going to be Levis time soon?
Well, it makes me wonder, and I think we'll have to talk about this tomorrow. How bad is Levis?
That too. I mean, that's definitely a red flag.
Willis yet with as bad as Willis looked last year. He's got a 1-year head start, but they drafted this guy pretty high in the second round, moved up to get him. The fact that he's not the first one to go to now, and if he's not the one to go to later, that's interesting.
It is to me. And maybe you look at the season and say, big picture, we like Levis more, but on game day for a backup, we like Willis more, and just turn it to him at this point, especially if Tannehill's going to miss time. Who knows? The Ravens offense, though, everyone thought it would be Bateman, Beckham, all these guys. It's all Zay Flowers and Andrews. I mean, they're all Zay's. Yeah.
There is no stock I want on that offense aside as far as wide receivers than Zay Flowers, because Beckham's not the dude that,
to be a terrible
name, but he's not that player. And Bateman's got to be one of the most frustrating, probably for the coaching staff and players as well. He's not even worth having on your fantasy roster at this point. No. But just for a player who's talented and looked like he was going to play well in the NFL, and there's some good NFL tape for him, and feels lost. And there was an interception that Lamar Jackson threw, and it's like, okay, maybe the throw wasn't where you thought it was going to be, but jump up and try to catch the ball or knock it away. Don't let it get intercepted because it flies over your head. Like he's dropping passes. The Bateman, Lamar Jackson needs a little bit of help at wide receiver, and he's got some guys that should be able to help, and they're not right now.
No, again, I think it's a work in progress. I mean, their running backs aren't difference makers. A lot of injuries on both sides of the ball throughout the year, but they're winning in their a business-like manner, and they don't have a bye coming back from overseas next week. So they're going to see where they're at there.
The Dolphins got a little scare early. The Panthers went up 14-0, and a little touchdown pass from the rookie, Bryce Young, and they were looking good. And then all of a sudden the Dolphins said, oh, that's right, we're a better team and we're much faster than you. So we're going to smash the gas pedal here. And we had Raheem Mostert, 2 touchdown rushes, 17 carries for 115 yards. Tyreek Hill running away from DBs, 6 catches, 163 yards and a touchdown. And man, it's amazing how fast that they can, go full throttle and just put up points.
It's funny. I was going to use basically the same analogy you just did. Was like, they got in the Ferrari in the morning, maybe had one extra beer the night before, it turned the thing on. It didn't kind of sputtered a little bit.
Oh shoot, we got to gas up. I forgot to get gas yesterday.
Right. And then they put the nitrous in the tank or whatever. And hey, Tyreek and Mostert, let's go. And they're going 180 down the highway and forget about it. I mean, this thing after the first quarter was a total blowout.
Jacksonville Jaguars defeating the Colts 37-20. They were in your bucket of teams that workmanlike, were better than their opponent, proved it, handled their business. The 4-2 Jaguars now in control of that division.
Yeah, Lawrence is becoming a star. ATN's been much better than I expected. They have plenty of weapons. Their D is pretty darn good. I mean, I think the Jags D is turning a corner too. All those high picks, especially in the front seven they've used. And the Colts are average on a good day.
Yeah, they're 3-3, and I think they're a team that can win some games, but they just don't belong with the upper echelon teams in the NFL right now. And I would put the Jaguars in the upper echelon.
And Colts always have problems in Jacksonville for whatever reason,
Don't look now though, Matt. Those Houston Texans are 3-3, and like Brock Purdy that we mentioned earlier, CJ Stroud has now thrown an interception this season. But they still got out with a win at home against the Saints. Saints are 3-3. The Texans now 3-3 after a 20-13 win for Houston.
It's funny. He did throw an interception, and the linebacker, I forget who it was, fumbled it back to them. So they didn't even lose the ball.
Yeah.
It's because he's special. He's magic.
Yeah, that's true. He's like, give me that ball back. Thank you.
I really am impressed with Houston. I thought they would not be this far along by any stretch. But I think the Saints are more interesting in this game, where I don't know about Carr anymore. I mean, when he's under pressure, he panics and he threw the ball way too much. And I like their weapons. Kamara's been a nice help to them. Shaheed is a big play jolt left and right. They have a good defense, but their protection's not great. And I want to see more Olave. The Saints should be better than they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, but I didn't think Carr was going to be a difference-making player. He's a starting NFL quarterback, but he's not a needle mover for me, and we're kind of seeing that. And it's funny because the Raiders, I don't think, are missing Carr, but it's not like they got better either. But they did win in a revenge factor. Jacoby Myers getting a touchdown against his old team. And at least the Patriots, Matt, hey, breaking news here. The Patriots scored a touchdown, by the way, even a couple of them in this football game. But they still lost at Las Vegas 21-17 to 21-17 Raiders over Pats.
Jimmy gets hurt. Hoyer comes in. I mean, this is the
Ultimate
ghost of
revenge.
Patriot quarterback past,
Yeah.
And you throw in Myers and Mac Jones. And I don't know what to take of this game. I guess it was a little bit better for the Patriots offense, going from like the worst offense in the league to just below average. The Raiders are more talented. I'm not impressed with either organization right now. And I'm not even just talking about what they're throwing on the field.
Some quick notes here for the rest of the Sunday schedule. The Cincinnati Bengals, it was our game of the week.
Good game, yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks, it was a tight one. Again, we're starting to see some grinded out, low scoring games, which is NFL football. You got to be able to win in multiple ways, and the Bengals, I think, have flipped a switch and are going to be able to do that. So good news for Cincinnati, who climbed back to 3-3 now. We're in a pretty good spot after 6 weeks after what it looked like to start the year. 17-13 win over the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks.
I think Burrow's out of the woods, and which is monstrous, obviously. And they now go into their bye. But the story here to me was the Bengals defense was really, really good in this game. Got after Geno Smith a lot, forced some bad decisions and turnovers by Smith. And I think he basically said this after the game, like, we played well enough, I didn't. And real quick on the Bengals, I mean, like, they're back to 500 and right in the middle of the AFC North, and they might even be the best team in that division. But now, how about this upcoming schedule for the Jags or for the Bengals? They have a bye, then they go to your hometown for San Francisco, host the Bills, host the Texans, which look like an easy win but isn't, at Baltimore, host the Steelers, at Jacksonville. Like, that is a nasty next 6 games.
The Browns did him a disservice by reminding the 49ers to be real angry next week when they play the visiting Bengals. So that's going to be a tough one for them.
Bengals O-line still worries me more than that. Not the Burrow thing. It's the O-line. It's not fixed, and it never has been for Burrow. Seahawks
are kind of like what we talked about a little bit earlier with maybe they're better than the Colts, but they're a team that's like, they're going to beat some bad teams, but I don't know if they feel like more, and Geno's playing okay. He had a couple interceptions in this game, but they're not the team that kind of surprised everybody in the first half of last year. They're more like the team in the second half of last year. That's good, but
agreed.
It doesn't scare you playing when you see the Seahawks on your schedule, but you still have to play well to beat them.
And I wonder if that's who Geno is and who they'll be as long as they have him, which is, fine. It's more Carr than it is, CARR. I mean, than he is, put the team on your back,
Not much to say about Vikings-Bears. Vikings beat the Bears 19-13. Justin Fields' hand injury. We'll have more information on that injury tomorrow. Desmond Ridder kind of had the reverse bounce back. He had the best game of his career last week, kind of throwing the ball to the other team. 3 interceptions in this one. They tried to throw the ball a lot. They needed to throw the ball a lot from behind against the Commanders. I just don't think that's going to work for the Falcons the way they're built. Commanders end up improving to 3-3. Falcons fall to 3-3, 24-16 win for Washington.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they played 100 times. It might be 51-49 or 50-50. I mean, this is one of those type of things. I want to stress the Falcons more, though. You mentioned the interceptions. A couple of them might not have been his fault, but some of them were bad, and he misses people all the time. Pitts and London now are starting to look good, but they get away from Bijan. Like, Bijan is a very, very special player, and they still hand the ball to Algier, who's fine. But, like, when it matters, get the ball in Robinson's hands.
That is the Week 6 slate of Sunday games. We've got one more Monday nighter. It is the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. We will break that one down tomorrow. Of course, a lot of the injury news. We'll have some more MRIs done and some confirmation on what some of these look like, and maybe talk about which injuries are the most impactful on this NFL season going forward as well. And do appreciate everybody for jumping in with us every single day here on Peacock and Williamson. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Matt and I back tomorrow. Peacock and Williamson.